Welcome again to Breakfast Central. Now let's take you through the newspapers and share with you the big stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. We're going to kick off on the Blueprint newspapers and see what we can find. It says that for subsidy removal, Nigeria records over 1 trillion naira monthly revenue inflow, says the federal government. It says recovery effort to bounce back the economy back to stability. Oh, okay. PMS, new paying demands plan protest, warns against panic buying. I did say this earlier that, a couple of weeks ago, actually, that, I feel like the Nigerian government still needs to be clear exactly on what the status is with regards petrol subsidy removal. I don't think a lot of people believe that petrol subsidy has truly been removed. I feel like a lot of people still, can see that it still is in existence. Maybe not on the level that it used to be before, but there's still some level of subsidy because the figures just don't add up with regards what the landing cost is and what we're currently paying for petrol. So, there has to be some level of honesty by the Nigerian government. And also, if we have saved monthly, 1 trillion naira revenue inflow after first subsidy removal, it means that we should have 12 trillion naira. Abi? At least, okay, well, not 12 because we only just started. So at least maybe like 6, 7 trillion naira saved.
Like 5. No, but they said they had backlogs.
December.
They had backlogs to clear.
Okay.
So,
Oh, wow.
but you see, the thing is, if there was a transparent communication on how the monies trickled in, what went out for backlogs, and what's left, and so on, I think it will also help. I think the current government needs to also start doing something, which we've seen what Mr. Funsho Dorothy indeed brought up. Don't just put vague statements out there.
Yeah.
Nigerians are in dire straits. They are at the cliff where, in order for them not to jump off, in order for them not to give up, you need to hold them at least by the hand and say, listen, this is what we are doing. So a clarification, proof, I think it will work.
I agree. But I don't know if that would happen, but it's definitely important. Oh yeah, Western democracy not working in Africa, says from President Olusegun Obasanjo. Does have a point, but I don't think it's the fact. I don't think Western democracy itself is the problem. It is Africans and the institutions that have failed to use and to benefit from Western democracy in quote. Democracy is said to be the best form of government, even if it's not perfect, but there's always going to be some loopholes here and there that people have tapped into, and also failure of institutions across the continent, complete failure of institutions. And I would also say it's not just here, even in the UK, in America, in those countries that we look at and praise all the time, they have a lot of issues with their, in quote, democracy. There's a lot of also loopholes. There's a lot of, things that are not the way that they seem to be. But at least, they don't outrightly just disrespect, their democratic institutions like that. So we have work to do here. It's not democracy that's a problem. It is, us as a people. 17.6 million children will be born into hunger this year, says SCI. Also on the Blueprint this morning, cleric to smash Guinness World Record with 60-hour marathon sermon. Currency in circulation hits 2.99 trillion naira, and also NSIA to drive Nigeria's energy transition with $500 million. Our human material resources advantage over others, says President Tinubu to investors. And we did have a conversation about that this morning. How relevant are these statements when what we see back at home is not an environment necessarily welcoming to investors? GSK, if you remember, is maybe the latest big company that has also started to exit Nigeria. In the last couple of years, there's been a lot of them that have had to close shop. And we're talking about the multinational companies now. Imagine what has happened to the local companies, the ones who could not continue to deal with the issues with running business in Nigeria, with electricity, with, security and the likes, with, and manpower. So these are some of the things that they may need to, pay more attention to, so it's easier to sell the country. But these are the stories on the Blueprint. Let's go to the Daily Trust newspapers this morning.
All right, let's go straight to the Daily Trust this morning. And we're taking a look at the header right there, the very first one on Daily Trust. It says, Western democracy not working for Africa. I think Osaoge just touched on it, and that's exactly my thought as well. Would you say it's Western democracy, or would you say it's the people or the person at the helms of affairs.
think
But let me also reiterate quickly that former President, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, saying that Western democracy is not working. Do recall that is what Nigerians call or have mimicked or have named rather Obasanjo Internet.
Yeah.
You know, it was the result of, the Western democracy is as a result of being enlightened, being broadened to ensure that you bring development infrastructure into the country. And that moved the former president to make that strong insinuations or statements back then that development must be made. And that's where we do know that internet and the likes of GSM and so on did come in. So if you put one and two together, the question would be, is it the democracy that's not working, or is it the individual or the people that sit at the helms of affairs? Anyway, Nigeria is gradually losing faith.
Well, it's the institutions, it's the failure of institutions that let these type of people sit there. That's the point, So yes, there's, maybe the wrong heads in these places, but it is because we have, had the institutions continuously fail that has allowed these type of people get into those positions.
Okay. Yesterday I saw this story and I was like, you won't believe, I had different pointers that came out from it, and that's why I'm going to say to myself, if we're going to dwell on this topic, it might take us to the end of the 8 o'clock hour, trust me. Nigeria is gradually losing faith, says Atiku, and no trust between leaders, followers, fire me. Now that second line, no trust between leaders and followers, is one of the points that has led to this conversation, especially by the former president. But then again, politicians' attitude, the problem, Lamido also says, of course you know Lamido, the former CBN governor, ex-president lacks moral ground to pontificate on democracy. That's from CISLAC. Then again, let's move on very quickly. The front page there, you can see the picture of Nigeria's president to the far left. Depends on where you are on the screen, but definitely the far left. That's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, of course, at the ongoing G20 summit. And the conversations are still rife, especially talking about the power that Nigeria, as the giant of Africa, has, especially in the youths. Reps go after 83 MDAs over 184 billion naira. COVID-19 fund management. This story is reoccurring because the reps had said they will go after the 83 MDAs just 2 weeks ago, and then again, it's coming up again. Take a look at those figures: 184 billion naira COVID-19 fund mismanagement. Till today, we do recall what happened during the COVID-19 period, where statements were made that they will send in, funds and the likes, especially to help cushion the effect. But that's an old story. That's a very old story. But that's all we're going to take on the front page of Daily Trust. You have the Punch right there on the screen next.
Yeah, and that's also another opportunity for Nigeria's House of Reps to show that they, they will be able to clean up the books with regards to these MDAs. If we truly lost 184 billion naira to COVID fund mismanagement, a lot of questions wouldn't have to be answered. People would need to also be, brought forward to answer these questions. People would need to be fired, if possible, even jailed. It depends on, how bad these atrocities are, because 184 billion naira could have done so much for the average Nigerian. Could have done so much to build better hospitals. Could have done so much to help poor people in Nigeria, or even, education. This, and so if it was truly mismanaged, and we will just, turn our heads the other way, or not take decisive action, then we're not ready as a country. But anyway, that's on the Daily Trust. Quickly on the Punch newspapers this morning. Reps probe 447. It's even more here. 447 billion
like I said, the figures from last when it came up and now. So you see 180 something here. You see 447. Do we really know the true figure?
Maybe not. Someone 83 MDAs. Lawmakers allege mismanagement of funds from 2020 to 2022 demand accountability. Panel plans 6-day grilling of MDA's chief account, finance, and procurement officers. Tinubu woos G20 investors. FAAC meet over multiple taxation. Also, BRT users lament shortage of buses and long queues. Osun State CJ, workers protest, assembly lists sins. And Israel-Hamas, women, children carry war burden. Families await hostages. We can also find the Obasanjo's deputy joins governorship race plans campaign. We did speak about this, early this morning. ENI suspends World Bank's arbitration on OPL 245 dispute. And also presidency fumes, tackles Obasanjo over democracy comment. Well, these are the big ones that we can find. I think we already spoke on some of them already this morning. These are the stories that we can find on the Punch newspapers, and where we'll be wrapping up the newspapers this morning. You can grab a copy of either of these papers and read up more and get more details on these stories. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, it's back to our top stories this morning on Breakfast Central.